Hey everyone, it's Keith. Welcome back to Throwback Movie Mondays, a retro movie review show where we're looking at the first movies based on DC Comics. Today, we go back to the swamp for Return of the Swamp Thing. The Return of the Swamp Thing was directed by Jim Wynorski, who made, let me check here, Busty Cops? All right. The film stars Dick Durock, Heather Locklear, and Louis Jourdan. Louis Jourdan returns as the evil scientist Dr. Arcane, which is surprising considering he turned into a bad Halloween costume and most definitely was killed at the end of the first movie. Oh well, Arcane is attempting to perfect a formula to splice humans with animals, and the Swamp Thing must stop him. It's pretty straightforward. The Return of Swamp Thing is at its worst when attempting to be humorous, which is all too often. It's not so much that it being a comedy is a strange contrast to the first film, which it is. It's more that the comedy itself is terrible. Funny hillbillies, loud children, it all reads as lazy, to be honest. The only part that actually came across as funny to me is a part that I'm sure was not intended to be. At one point, Arcane orders his men to lure Swamp Thing out of hiding, and a montage ensues of these guys just being assholes around the swamp, bombing around on ATVs and throwing dynamite out of helicopters. But what really holds the film back the most is its cast. Aside from Louis Jourdan as Dr. Arcane, everybody in the film is some shade of bad. Dick Durock, who plays the Swamp Thing, is on the more forgivable side. His only real crime being that there's nothing really beneath the surface of his performance, no underlying pain. For a guy that lost everything after being doused in chemicals, set on fire, and transformed into a living plant, there should be some sadness there at the very least. The entire supporting cast lies at the other end of the bad acting spectrum. Heather Locklear, who plays the love interest in the film, even won a Golden Raspberry Award for her performance in the film. The Razzies, which are the Oscars for bad movies, are kind of bullshit in my opinion. They often pile on a particular film or actor to the point of feeling mean for the sake of meanness. But they were pretty spot on here. Locklear is quite terrible. She's sort of trying to channel a 1950s horror actress performance, but it doesn't really work. The worst actor in the film, though, is Daniel Taylor, one of two young boys who go into the swamp in an attempt to take a picture of the Swamp Thing so they can sell it to the tabloids. I don't want to talk too much shit about this kid. I always feel bad when I talk so poorly of child actors, but he might be the worst actor I've ever seen. His performance is so bad, and his entire subplot so superfluous to the rest of the film that every scene he's in could have been cut out, and should have. The only problem there being that even with those parts, the movie is 87 minutes, including credits. They couldn't even pad their way to an hour and a half. The Return of Swamp Thing was released on May 12th, 1989, to mostly negative reviews, and was quickly forgotten. As a kid, I remember seeing the original Swamp Thing on TV from time to time, but never this one. I didn't even know it existed for a long time. However, shortly after this film, a television series was commissioned by the USA Network. It featured Dick Durock again as the Swamp Thing, and returned to a darker tone, more in line with the first film. The show ran for 3 seasons and was at one point USA's highest rated program. The Return of Swamp Thing is probably the most forgettable movie I've covered in this series. Inferior in every way to the original, which is itself a pretty unspectacular film. It's not well written, it's poorly acted, and making it a comedy was a death knell. The Return of Swamp Thing gets a 3 out of 10. Thanks so much for watching my review. I have links for the other films in the Throwback Movie Mondays series in the description below. Please check those out if you'd like, and have a good week. Bye.
I got you now, Mr. Potato Head!